I used to think the grammar aspects of the digital SAT was tough, and I used to look like this. But after finding out these rules, I started looking like this. Follow the rest of the video to learn some of these rules. I'm gonna be teaching the digital SAT, specifically the grammar aspect, because that's kind of like my specialty when it comes to the reading and the writing. And then the digital SAT, the grammar aspect is practically divided into the punctuations part and some other parts. The punctuations part is like the major part. It is the major part. So, and I feel it's actually the easiest part because there are just some rules that need to be followed. No matter what you think, no matter how the sentence might sound, once the rules are followed, everything's gonna be okay. So punctuation. So in this playlist we're gonna be talking about punctuations, but in this video we're gonna be talking about the commas. So yeah, punctuations are symbols used in sentences to clarify reading. They help to show how the idea of text is conveyed and to prevent misinterpretation of passages. That basically means the same thing. So examples of the punctuations are the comma, colon, dash, period, semicolon, and apostrophe. All of them have their functions. Some have similar functions, but the one with the most number of functions is the comma because that's how it is. So yeah, we're gonna be talking about the comma in this video. So the comma is the most used punctuation in the one of the most used, I would say it is the most used punctuation in the English language because it helps to identify a pause in reading. So when it is in a text, the reader is meant to pause for a little while. It helps to prevent run-offs when reading, and for this reason there are different ways a comma can be used. The first way is to separate items in a list. This is kind of trivial, everybody knows this, but let's just cover everything. So one thing you should know is that the list has to contain 3 or more items, not 2 items. Of course, if it's 1 item, it's not, I don't think it's a list. So okay, let's go to the examples. We have Toby owns the pen and the book. It's wrong because the list only contains 2 items, the pen and the book. So we're not going to use a comma here because it's just 2 items. That's why this is wrong. So it's just going to be Toby owns the pen and the book. No comma, just English, just straight, just the word and. But in this third example, we have the pen, the book, and the pencil. So now we have 3 items on the list. So it's gonna be Toby owns the pen, comma, the book, comma, and the pencil. That's how it's gonna be. But there is an exception that I will discuss in another video because that exception has to do with when we use a semicolon to separate items in a list instead of a comma. But yeah, of course I'm gonna treat semicolons in another video. So I hope you understand this part, of course. So yeah, okay, so let's go on. So okay, another function of the comma is to separate 2 adjectives that can be separated by the word and. So this isn't usually common, you don't usually see it a lot, but it happens. So in this first example we have Toby writes inspiring nice books. So this is gonna be wrong because 2 adjectives won't stay beside each other just like that. but an adjective and an adverb can do that actually, but not two adjectives. So inspiring here is an adjective, nice here is an adjective. Both of them are meant to qualify the noun books. So they being just together like that is wrong. But if we had inspiringly nice books where it was an adverb instead, the adverb there would be modifying the adjective nice. So then it would be Toby writes inspiringly nice books. So there you don't need a comma or you don't need any other thing, you can just put it that way. But since it's two adjectives we have, it would be wrong. But if we go to the second part, we have Toby writes inspiring and nice books. So it's practically the same as saying Toby writes inspiring books that are also nice. So inspiring and nice books. So instead of using and, you could also use a comma. Toby writes inspiring nice books. So that's how to use a comma to separate two adjectives that can be separated by the word and. So I hope you understand that also. So let's go on to the next slide. So it can also be used after introductory words or phrases, most times transition words. So it helps to make the text sound more reasonable. So for instance, we have, let's say you're writing a to-do list or your schedule. So you're not gonna say first go and sleep. You're gonna say first with a comma go and sleep, because just saying it that way just sounds weird. It's practically just wrong. And here we have still, the rows were victorious. Still, then a pause was needed. The rows were victorious. If you notice, this still and first are transition words. So that's why I said most times transition words. They are used after introductory words or phrases. So I hope you understand that also. Let's go on. So yeah, they are also used to separate dependent and independent clauses. This is also commonly tested on the digital SAT. So I'm going to define what a dependent clause is and what an independent clause is. So a dependent clause is a clause that can't stand on its own, meaning you can't just walk up to someone and say, let's say for instance in this example, in the morning. You can't walk up to someone and say in the morning. Something has to happen in the morning. That's what you're trying to tell the person. In the morning something will happen. So something like this, in the morning, is a dependent clause. Then an independent clause can stand on its own. So something like this, I will visit you. I will visit you can stand on its own. You can walk up to someone and say, I will visit you. That makes perfect sense. I will visit you. So the independent clause has a working verb. I don't really know how to explain. A working verb is a verb that let's say it performs. Let me just leave that part out because I don't really know how to explain it, but you can just take note of it. But essentially, an independent clause makes sense on its own. It can even be a sentence on its own. So but this function of a comma separating a dependent and an independent clause only works when the dependent clause starts the sentence or when the dependent clause comes before the independent clause. So let's look at these examples here. In this first example, we have, in the morning I will visit you, no comma, no punctuation, just the period. So this is wrong because in the morning is a dependent clause, while I will visit you is an independent clause. They're meant to be separated by a comma like it is in the second example, in the second sentence. But if you even read it, it's gonna read, in the morning I'll visit you. You notice that you need a pause to continue. It's not just gonna flow that way. So that's probably why the rule was made. So when a dependent clause is used before an independent clause, a comma is used to separate them. But if the independent clause comes before the dependent clause, no punctuation needs to be used. For instance, here we have I will visit you. This is the independent clause. Then in the morning, the dependent clause, no punctuation was needed to separate them. It goes just like that. Okay, so I hope you understand that also. Then okay, to show non-essential clauses. So I'm gonna explain what a non-essential clause is first. A non-essential clause is a part of a sentence that is not necessary. It just gives additional information to the sentence, meaning if you cross out the non-essential clause from the sentence would still make complete sense. So the non-essential clause can be placed at the beginning, middle, or end of a sentence. That depends on the writer. So in this example, the first sentence is the Pacific Ocean, which is the largest ocean, covers approximately 165 million square kilometers. So this is wrong, but I'm going to use the second example to explain why the first example is wrong. So if you read the second example, the Pacific Ocean, I paused, which is the largest ocean, another pause, covers approximately 165 million kilometer square. So we put two commas around this clause because we consider it to be non-essential. Remember what I said about non-essential clauses? You can cancel them out from the sentence. The sentence would still make complete sense. So canceling this out from the sentence, we're going to have the Pacific Ocean covers approximately 165 million square kilometers. So this clause is not essential for the sentence to stand. It just provides more information, gives more information to the sentence. It's just telling us more about the Pacific Ocean. But the main idea trying to be passed is that the Pacific Ocean covers approximately 165 square kilometers. So because the non-essential clause is used in the middle of the sentence, so it's going to be surrounded by two commas. These commas serve like as a boundary, like saying this is non-essential. You can skip to the other part, but this just provides more information. That's why a non-essential clause is surrounded by two commas when it's used in the middle of the sentence. So if we go on to the next one, these next sentences, we're gonna use this one that has the comma to explain this previous one. So this session is hosted by Toby, a nice person. We use the comma here. If you cancel out a nice person, this session is hosted by Toby. The sentence still makes complete sense. So this a nice person, this phrase, let's just call it a clause, but I believe it's a phrase. This clause is actually telling us more about Toby, but the main idea the sentence is trying to pass is that the session is hosted by Toby. So now we used just one comma because the non-essential clause is not in the middle of the sentence. Every sentence must end with a period. That is a rule that cannot be, let's say, overridden, or it's a rule that will always stand. So you can't say you're gonna put a comma at the end of the sentence because of that. And remember, the comma is serving as like a boundary to say this is not needed. So you're just gonna, let's say the comma, this full stop is the wall. so it's just gonna be pushed away. So just one comma is needed. So note that the word that doesn't introduce a non-essential clause. So when the word that is used, I believe in most cases, if not all, the word that introduces an essential clause. So I know that most times the words that introduce as non-essential clauses are which and who. You could say to be, let's say the Pacific Ocean was a person, so the Pacific Ocean who is the largest ocean. It would also be non-essential, assuming the Pacific Ocean was a person. So we should note, however, that this doesn't always mean that a clause surrounded by two commas is non-essential. So I'm going to use this sentence to explain it. So later on I'm going to explain transition words, but one thing you should know is that usually when you use a transition word at the beginning of a sentence, you use a comma after it. So however here is a transition word. So however, so you're going to use a comma after that. Then it's just like first and still in the previous examples, we used commas after them. So however, then a comma. Then for fishes, dependent clause, you can't walk up to someone and say however. You can't walk up to someone and say for fishes. I mean, something has to happen for fishes. Then they need to use something. This is an independent clause. So remember, when you are separating a dependent clause from an independent clause, in a case where the dependent clause comes first, you're going to use a comma. So now this phrase for fishes is surrounded by two commas, not because it is non-essential, but just because of other grammatical rules that need to be followed. So you can't cancel out for fishes in this sentence because we need to know what the sorting needs to be used for. So you just need to understand the context of the text or the sentence you're reading. Alright, so I hope you understand that also. Yeah, let's continue. So we have to separate, using a comma to separate two independent clauses. So let's do that. So one thing we need to know first is that the comma doesn't work alone. It works together with a coordinating conjunction, what some people call fanboys. So this fanboys is an abbreviation for the coordinating conjunctions, just 7 of them. We have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So looking at this first example, how do we know that we have two independent clauses there? So we have Jessica fixed the laptop. You can walk up to someone and say Jessica fixed the laptop. It makes complete sense. Then we have she sold it. Makes complete sense. So we have two independent clauses. And then you need to know that you need a comma to work together with a fanboys conjunction. So this first sentence here is wrong. So in the second sentence, we have Jessica fixed the laptop, then a comma, then we used the word and, which is a fanboys, and then she sold it. So Jessica fixed the laptop, comma, and she sold it. But however, when the subject is not included in the second clause, there is no need for a comma. So the subject the subject of a sentence is the noun or whatever that performs the verb in that sentence, that performs the action. So in this first clause, Jessica is the one performing the verb fixed. She is the one who fixed the laptop. So Jessica is the subject. Then in this second clause, she sold it. So she is the one that sold it. She that is referring to Jessica, a pronoun referring to the noun Jessica, is the subject of this second clause. So if you cross out she, the word she, from this sentence, you're not gonna need a comma. It's just gonna be Jessica fixed the laptop and sold it, as is used in this sentence. So no need for a comma because the subject, the word she, is not used in the second clause. So I hope you understand that also. So let's go on to the next. So note that you did not use a comma around a name, rather you put it around the description of the name or the title of the person who owns the name. For instance, we have the famous and renowned painter Toby will always be in our heart. If you notice, the famous and renowned painter, when you read the sentence, it sounds like it needs a pause because the famous and renowned painter is like a long title, a long description. So it sounds like it needs a pause, but in reality, according to the rules, we don't need a pause because this sentence is just like saying Principal Toby will always be in our heart. Principal here is the title or the description of Toby if this was replaced with principal. So you won't say Principal Toby will always be in our heart. It's just gonna be Principal Toby will always be in our heart. So just like it is in this second sentence, it's just gonna be the famous and renowned painter, which is like the title, just like the word principal is. The famous and renowned painter Toby will always be in our hearts. But if Toby came first, now it's gonna be Toby, the famous and renowned painter, will always be in our hearts. So this is just like a non-essential clause. Without this, it's gonna be Toby will always be in our hearts. This famous and renowned painter here is just telling us more about who Toby is, but the main idea being passed is that someone named Toby will always be in our hearts. Do you understand? I hope you understand that. So that's it for this, and that's it for commas. So commas just have rules that need to be followed. Multiple questions can come out on the digital SAT, and they can just be free marks for you once you know these rules and practice some more questions. At the end of this playlist, of course, I'm gonna go through some practice questions, and I'll probably put some questions, a link to some questions in the description. So since this is my first video, your feedback would be highly appreciated. So you can tell me how I did in the comment sections. You can tell me if you have any questions. I'll be active with the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. So yeah, that's it. Bye, have a nice day.